So we are ready to start moving toward our final segment and toward our dinner reception. As we talked about at the top of this conference, one of the strengths is the diversity and range of perspectives, right? So we've heard from researchers today. We've heard from quite a few researchers, and we've heard from student researchers, and through their case study as well. We heard from policymakers through several speeches. We've heard from community bankers, and now it's time to hear from a regulator. So I'm pleased to welcome to the podium to offer day one concluding thoughts and reflections, Carl White. Carl White is the Senior Vice President in charge of banking supervision here at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, and my boss. So Carl, I'm looking forward to your comments and appreciate you sharing your thoughts with everyone here today.
Yeah, you stay there because I'm going to make you some job offers here in a little bit. Thanks, Jim, and thanks everyone for joining us today. And what a great first day. So before we get to the dinner reception, it's always, I don't know if it's a good thing to be right before. I can keep you as long as I want, I guess. But before we conclude day one and break for a nice opportunity to continue networking, I'd like to offer just a few thoughts and reflections on day one. First, I would like to personally thank and acknowledge the Planning Committee. Many of you, we've already recognized you, so I'm not going to make you stand up, but we have almost every single Friday, we have a call, and on top of that, there's a lot of work that goes on, from judging the case study to reviewing the submitted papers. This year, we had a record number, over 100 papers submitted, and I think I'll speak for most of my fellow members of the committee. This is not part of our normal day job, so but I think we all really enjoy it, and we keep coming back year after year, so I think it's a good thing. I'd also like to personally thank my staff and the staff here at the Reserve Bank, from law enforcement when you walked in the door, from our support services that are putting out the food and beverages, and then all my folks from technology support. I'm not going to name folks because my fear is I'll forget somebody. You know who you are, and I'll take care of you later. And just a personal thanks to Jim. I know everyone has thanked Jim, but Jim is a key part of this committee, and believe me, I know what his workload is, and I think I talk to him every day about balancing his workload, and this conference is just another thing that he's been able to just do a phenomenal job with. So thank you, Jim. So I've been involved with the conference just about every year in different capacities, as a participant, as a case study judge, and now as head of supervision supporting the conference and being on the planning committee. And I continue to just be thoroughly impressed on what we learn with so many different voices and that come together to explore and support community banking. We started the day hearing from St. Louis Fed, Kansas City Fed, and CSBS leadership, who all reaffirmed the importance of community banking, the importance of this conference, and the importance of bringing together all the different perspectives from all of you that gathered here today. I'd like to specifically thank Kansas City President Jeff Schmid. I know Jeff had to leave, but 6 weeks literally, I think it was a week into the job when we asked Tara, would you mind asking the new president to join the conference? And I think immediately he said yes, which was wonderful. And then thanks to our interim president, Kathy Pace, kind of the same story. Kathy's been in her role just a short period of time, and when I mentioned the conference to her, she said, absolutely. Unfortunately, as you know, she had to be in Chicago today for a very important conference, but she joined us last night for dinner. She was at the reception. She was willing to do the prepared video, so a big thanks to Kathy as well. Governor Bowman, in her morning keynote address, offered us a window into her thought processes on supervisory and regulatory policy. She cited seminal research that has provided us with critical insights into the community bank business model, which she thoroughly supports, and highlighted the important role of local relationship-based community banks. She also offered some suggestions for the research community on topics she believes will be highly relevant in future policy debates. So hopefully our researchers took that to heart. She focused on the definition of a community bank funding models, and deposit insurance models, with a focus on which models will make our banking system more resilient during times of stress. CSBS, through its annual survey, gave us important industry perspectives on the opportunities and challenges facing community banks, particularly in the wake of banking market stresses that occurred earlier this year. I think I'm the one that emphasizes banking stresses and not banking crisis. The annual survey, which you all have now, hopefully, gave us data on how the effects of inflation were impacting bank balance sheets, as the majority of banks reported net interest margin compression, higher cost of funds, and higher personnel expenses. Despite these challenges, which were highly publicized earlier this year, cybersecurity remains top of mind for community bankers, as you agree with, I think, which makes intuitive sense, as nearly all bankers reported that the adoption of new and emerging technologies was essential for future growth and to remain competitive going forward. In regard to the annual survey, I'd also like to note the additional insights we gained from 5 banks from across the country who offered their views on 5 essential questions related to this year's survey. That's in the back of the survey if you haven't had a chance to take a look at that. They discussed recruitment and retention, the impact of rising interest rates, funding and liquidity, and what future competition looks like in the digital economy. They also offered their thoughts on what potential legislative, regulatory, and supervisory responses to the regional bank failures earlier this year would be most constructive given the issues that surfaced. I would encourage everyone to spend some time with this year's annual survey publication. It's one of the most comprehensive views on the state of community banking in our country. We're all very proud of that publication, so thank you, CSBS. Turning to research, which is the backbone of this conference, obviously, I'd like to acknowledge what an incredibly thought-provoking day this has been. I'm amazed at how quickly the research community and the authors in our first session were able to develop papers that looked at the issues that surfaced just a few months ago. We saw how social media impacted bank stocks during the runs that took place in March, the role of deposit inflows as a signal for changes in bank risk, and perhaps more interestingly, as a signal of future deposit outflows. We also saw evidence suggesting that the decision to classify securities as either held to maturity or available for sale was less about economics and more about the financial and regulatory accounting treatment available. In his remarks, Chairman Gruenberg flagged a number of these issues, including the speed of deposit flight earlier this year and the role of social media in accelerating deposit flight. He also highlighted several policies that he believes needs to be reviewed, including uninsured deposits and the role of bank supervision in mitigating liquidity risks, the treatment of unrealized losses for capital purposes, the appropriateness of our current deposit insurance infrastructure, and finally, the impact of rapid asset growth on financial stability. Evaluating these papers in the context of what senior policymakers are focused on only underscores their importance. These are all highly relevant and timely papers, and the discussion around these papers was significantly enhanced by our academic moderator and our community bank discussant. As others have noted in their comments today, one of the most unique factors of this conference is the integration of an experienced community banker on every research panel. Skip and Andy certainly offered practical, real-world perspectives on the research presented today. Which brings me to the session on bank resilience in the face of extreme weather events. Resilience is another area that both Governor Bowman and Chairman Gruenberg flagged as important areas of focus for current and future research and also policy. Hearing from Andy Anderson was nothing short of terrifying as he described what happened in Rolling Fork, Mississippi earlier this year. And yet, listening to the research on how community banks respond in regions devastated by natural disasters, I was glad that community bankers like Andy live and work in those communities. For those with lingering doubts about the community bank business model and its relevance in today's banking system, these papers and Andy's insights are a case study into why community banks matter. And speaking of case studies, please join me in once again acknowledging the great work of the students of the University of Tennessee Martin, two-time winners. I had lunch with two of the winners, and we talked about future careers, so we'll talk at the reception. It is really inspiring to see these young students have a strong interest. One of them's even interested in consumer compliance, so anyway, the case study requires students to work closely with a community bank to understand their business model and future strategies. I've been fortunate to serve as a judge in the competition for several years, and I must say how impressive it was for me to see just how much information the students were able to glean from their community bank partner. And we all got a front row seat to see how the bank adjusted during and following the pandemic, so great job. As we look ahead to tomorrow, we'll hear from our third research panel. This one is focused on credit risk. And we'll assemble an expert panel of community bankers and a member of the media for a discussion on how community banks are preparing for success, given the lessons we've learned in recent months and recent years. The panel session is being moderated by the FDIC's Brian Sullivan, who joined us again this year, and will be released as an official FDIC podcast later this year. Prior to these sessions, however, we'll hear from our 2023 Community Bank keynote speaker, Jeff Sapersky. Jeff's here with us today. Jeff's remarks will kick off tomorrow's conference sharply at 8:30. To introduce you to Jeff, his bank, and his community of Kilmarnock, Virginia, I'm going to close today's conference by sharing a short video of Jeff that was recorded this summer. It's part of a series that we call Community Banking in Your Community and Beyond Your Community. I think you'll agree that Jeff's bank has had an impact that goes well beyond his community in rural Virginia, which has impacted people and businesses throughout the state of Virginia and even beyond his immediate market area. So I hope you enjoy the video, and please join us for the reception right afterwards.
Greater downtown Kilmarnock, Virginia is where we are. We have about 10,000 people in our whole county, and I think we're up to 5 traffic lights now in the county. So you probably hit 2 of them last night on the way in. Yeah. We have, I think, 260 miles of shoreline in the county. We're a 123-year-old bank, started in 1900 in this area called the Northern Neck, which is land between the Rappahannock and Potomac rivers. We started here originally to serve watermen, which would primarily be crabbers and oystermen.
Everybody knows everybody else down here, and Jeff and his bank are just a perfect fit for this community.
It's a real dichotomy. We have a lot of retirees, and then we have a lot of working class. Servicing both of those needs stretches us, but I think that's sort of what we do. We're largely a small business lender, have always been. It's about 75% of our portfolio. We service that small business lending niche well because we're responsive and we're relationship oriented. We also have 2 specialty lines of business that are nationwide. One of them is a receivable financing division, and the other one is merchant processing. We are a principal member of Visa, MasterCard. They integrate with the bank, but they also run largely separately. They've been huge for us. We feel like we serve those spaces in a community bank way.
What makes a community bank different and what makes Chesapeake Bank different is that the person that you're talking to is the experience that you're going to get.
We have a lot of technology. All of our technology drives our customers to people.
When you call us, there's actually a person that answers the phone.
We don't have a better loan than anybody. We don't have a better checking account than anybody. It all derives from our people and how the people interact with the public. We feel, one, privileged to be the only bank headquartered here, but we also feel we're a bigger cog in the economic engine of helping this local community.
W. Ellery Kellum Incorporated. We're a fourth generation family oyster processing firm. My grandfather started the business in 1948. He took the proceeds from scrap iron that he collected and a $500 line of credit from Chesapeake Bank and started the business with my grandmother. And in 1995, my dad made a decision at that point. He had had enough. My dad's twin brother did not want to. He wanted to continue the business, and he actually approached my brother and I come in as owners.
They were in a tough position, and we stepped in and stuck with them. And now they're a very important customer of ours, hugely profitable business, but it was not without some pain on the front end.
I mean, I truly believe that our business is an example that without a community bank, we wouldn't be here.
We truly feel that we can't be a strong community bank without a strong community, and it's totally symbiotic. So we need to make sure we have a strong community to live in. So as a result, we're very philanthropic.
You can't speak about community service in this community without talking about Chesapeake Bank. And here's what I mean by that. If you take every service project going on, you'll not only find their dollars, but you're going to find their people.
We strive to have employees who want to do that sort of stuff.
The bottom line wasn't how big of a loan were you requesting or how much financial need did you have to have. It was what's the byproduct? Who's it going to help? How many is it going to help? And what's the difference going to be because of that? Now that's a business plan I can get behind.
They say that all politics are local, and that's probably the case. But I would certainly offer that all banking is local. Everybody needs a local banker.
We're not just selling widgets, we're selling things that make a big difference in people's lives, whether they're consumers or they're small businesses.